Concerns are being raised about mental health services for detainees inside a prison in Western Australia following the deaths of 2 inmates in the space of little more than a year. Last week, a 19-year-old Aboriginal man took his own life at Acacia Prison near Perth, despite his family raising concerns about his mental health with the prison. And a warning, this story contains images of deceased Indigenous Australians and contains references to self-harm and suicide.
A sister beset by grief. This month, Jacinta Miller's brother Stanley became the latest Aboriginal person to die in custody in Australia.
To have to know that he was feeling alone in those moments and was able to just go and just to take his own life.
Stanley was an inmate at Acacia Prison, a medium security jail privately run by Serco on behalf of the West Australian Government. Jacinta says her brother wasn't coping well with being in an adult prison for the first time and had self-harmed in the days before his death. She called the prison to warn of her brother's worsening mental health, but says while Stanley was placed into a crisis care unit, he was released soon after, and she says he wasn't properly supervised.
It's just something that I can't get my head around. They had a duty of care to him. He's a human. He was a human being. He was crying out for help.
It's the second time in just over a year that an Aboriginal family has warned the prison about the mental health of an inmate, only for that person to later die by suicide. Karen Blanket visited Acacia in May last year and told staff that her 30-year-old son Joman might take his own life.
They didn't do their job properly. It was lack of duty of care. I don't care what anyone says. They didn't do their job properly. They said they'd watch him 24 hours and they didn't.
The WA Department of Corrective Services has a suicide prevention framework for managing at-risk prisoners, but advocates say it isn't enough, and the 2 men that died should have been transferred out of the prison and cared for elsewhere. Mervyn Eads is part of a group that monitors deaths in custody. He was granted permission to go inside Acacia Prison after Stanley's death and says the facility isn't safe for a high-risk population.
Coming out the Royal Commission, all the ligature points in any prison should not be there, and I was astounded. I've been to many prisons throughout Western Australia. It was not good, not right at all, and Serco have a lot to answer to for that.
The WA Department of Justice confirmed that it has fined Serco $207,000 as a result of Stanley's death this month. In a statement, Serco said attempts were made to revive the 19-year-old, but he passed away in hospital. Serco will now assist a Department of Justice review into his death. Meanwhile, both of the families wait for coronial inquests to be held before the details of what went wrong are examined publicly.
To not have a counsellor say, hey Stanley, no, that's not an option for you, you know? It could have been prevented.
The grief of losing a brother, now burdened with a search for answers. Aaron Fernandez, SBS World News.
And if this story has raised issues for you or someone you know, you can get immediate help by calling Lifeline at any time on this number, 13 11 14.